Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Very good,
All good.
thanks.
Nice
Happy
one.
Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. It's been quite a week. So while I just see people trickle in, maybe you can update us on how your weeks have been, share what you've been working on that you're allowed to share, and then I'll jump into some questions shortly.
I like the fact you say what we are allowed to share, just to make sure, right?
Just making sure there's implied alpha, but also reminding you to not say the things you're not allowed to say.
Um, I think so. From my side, I've been very busy, kind of building stuff, basically. So building, writing code, and working with engineers, and also building PowerPoints, presentations, and emails, and things like this, um, and reviewing light paper and yeah, basically a lot of documentation and basically writing code and writing words. Basically, that's what I've been doing.
And you, Marcus?
Yeah. Yeah, on my end, and over the last few weeks since we last spoke, I've been talking to banks, financial institutions, new clients, new opportunities to bring assets on chain. Obviously, there's a huge pipeline of things that we're that we'll be announcing. We signed a massive contract with the large financial institutions with more than 155 million clients, where we're gonna use Rails to assets. I'm super excited. We hope to announce soon the PR. It's signed. That's you know. Then there's another commodities trading company which will tokenize their trade finance receivables with us. Super exciting because involves not only this but cross-border payment as well using stable coins. So it kind of it's a real use case of utility on chain, and that's what excites me more. To bring value on chain and allow this value to be transferred, exchanged and stored. And yeah, that's being my focus, as well as kind of talking to investors. You never end talking to investors. We want to, obviously, investors to buy and hold our token and accrue value over the next years. So that's why we keep talking to them, selling the strength of what we're doing. That in the long run, I think this the protocol will be really good for us and for the community that's part of it. I think that's the view.
Nice one. And Alex, you mentioned the light paper. When do you think we're going to be ready to share that with the community?
It's kind of like 95% ready. There's a few small wrinkles I'm trying to iron out. It's basically there, just making sure that everything is as correct as it can be. Also, like we need to make sure that everything is consistent with all the other, website and other documents and things like this. So I'm hoping, I won't make a promise, but I'm hoping this is going to be fully finished today.
Great. And in the meantime, anyway, we've just published that blog about the tokenomics. We've kind of got the TLDR for everybody that wants to understand RLS. And we've collected some questions from the community, which I'm going to dive into now, if you guys don't mind. So the first question I've got is from Prince Labura 12. They ask, beyond governance and incentives, are there mandatory protocol level utilities for RLS?
So the way we see RLS is it is, yes, a governance token. It is also the staking token. And it is the token that institutions need to purchase to pay for fees of usage. So what I mean by this is because Rails has these two sides: is the permissioned private chains and then the public chain, which we will be launching. And the way that we set it up is that institutions that use the permission chain, so everything that Mark has been talking about, just a minute ago, it starts with the permission chains, the private permission chains. And the way that institutions pay for usage is that they pay based by volume of transactions. So the more transactions they do, the more they pay, now obviously, but also there's discounts. So let's say if the institution is doing 1,000 transactions per month, then let's say that this is not the correct numbers, but let's say each transaction costs 1 cent of a dollar. And then if they go for 1 million transactions, then each transaction costs, let's say, half a cent of a dollar, because there's volume discounts. But the way that they have to pay this to the Rails Foundation is with RLS. So institutions need to buy RLS and then send to the foundation. So it's not technically gas, because the permission chains, they are gasless, but it is a, let's say, transactional fee that they have to pay. And then, of course, there's also usage of RLS in the public chain, not directly, but there's indirect ways that RLS is used for transactions in the public chain. It's going to be part of the light paper when we published all the details.
Okay, nice. And I can see an easy one for me in the chat, so I'll answer that one. Someone was asking whether the top 500 or top 250 of KOLs will be rewarded on Cookie. It'll be the top 500. In fact, I can see somebody's also answered that in the comments. But feel free to jump into the comments if you guys have got any other questions. Okay, so next up, I'm not sure who this question is from, but it's a good one. So since Rails is targeting TradFi institutions, how will RLS integrate into bank-driven use cases without creating friction?
Yeah, I think I can take this one. Yeah, the way we designed the fees when they use either the private network or the public chain will be paid in dollars, and then instantaneously this converts into buying the RLS. And that's why it generate demands for the RLS token. So it takes the friction out of the bank, because he behind the scenes he's effectively buying without knowing. We're thinking maybe that if he uses RLS directly to pay the fees, there was a little discount to the transaction fees, but this is something that obviously depends on the technical implementation, and we're exploring to give an incentive to buy directly. But as you know, in some countries, financial institutions cannot hold crypto yet. So that's why we took out this friction, say paying dollars in stable coins, and then it's seamless converting to the RLS, and then it goes to the flywheel of our tokenomics. 30%, 33% of it goes back to the community for grants, 33% goes to the validators, and 33% if the private network or user stakes is going to get as a kind of a rebate. So we incentivize this very positive flywheel, but the friction is taking by paying in dollars, but behind the scenes it buys the RLS token.
Yeah, this is, by the way, like just a comment. A lot of the work we've put into Rails is in understanding the requirements from clients. Because we can build any technology, but the difficulty, the challenge is always build something that institutions actually want to use. And so a lot of effort has been put over the last few years to understand the requirements and see what are the challenges that they face. And so what Marcos is saying, why are we saying that they have to pay in dollars and this and that, is because if you're a bank, if you're a financial institution, you don't really want to have to pay fees in a token that changes value every 5 seconds, right? So you want to have predictability. You want to be able to say, okay, if I'm going to make 1 million transactions, this is how much I need to budget, for the transactions. And this is why on the permission chain side, the fees are charged in dollars. And it's like I said, the foundation has to be paid in RLS. So there's mechanisms to exchange the dollars for RLS, right? So basically the institutions, they need to somehow purchase RLS off the market, or they need to use a broker, to buy for them and then send to the foundation. And on the public chain, we have a similar mechanism, which we will divulge with the light paper. But it's following the same, like when you see the light paper, you understand. It's all about making sure that financial institutions have a predictable fee structure that's not changing like every second with the market.
Nice one, thank you. All right, let's do this fancy thing when we get it up on screen. Nice. So how will Rails prevent governance capture or whale dominance?
I think this is a topic that we will look into more detail. In the beginning, it's not like we have a DAO since day zero. In the beginning, the governance is done with the Rails Foundation. The Rails Foundation is an ownerless foundation, as it's called, and there's a board of directors that's been elected to start off. And these directors are the ones that are making decisions. And so what we want to get to eventually is that this actually becomes a DAO, and that the decisions are made by the community. There are lots of examples of things that work and don't work in DAOs. That we've seen over the years some good examples that we would like to kind of copy. But I'd say this is probably like a year or two away still. So we will make sure that I think what we want ultimately is that it is as decentralized as possible, basically, right? And that it serves the purposes of the main users. So yeah, we will make sure that whatever voting mechanism we put in place will account for avoiding a small group making all decisions.
Okay, and we've got another question from, this is hard to say, FA Sarah PH. Will there be a segment on how RLS interacts with DeFi protocols in real world use cases? I think this is either referring to the AMA.
Yeah, one of the use cases for this commodity trading, commodity trading, trade finance, a project that we're about to sign, and it's a massive one. The trading revenue a year is $3 billion, and we're discussing to tokenize, the trade finance receivables. What's this? When they export, they have a receivable, an income to receive from the revenue, and then we're tokenize this because it takes like 40 days to pay. And the idea is that those tokenized receivables goes to a lending vault. Then it's a DeFi protocol, and part of the yield that the borrower takes will be converted to RLS as a fee for the usage of the vault. So that's the integration that we're considering. So this is something very exploratory, but because the borrower will allocate, obviously the tokenized trade finance receivables into the vault, and will pay a yield for that. And again, investors will allocate their stable coins on those vaults to remunerate the stable coins. But ultimately, part of the yield that's paid by the borrower will go, great part, 99% goes to the ones that are allocating capital to the vaults, and part of it will go to buy the RLS token. So this integration brings a lot of utility for the token as well, and we're super excited because we haven't seen anyone out there doing or thinking or doing something like this.
Great. I'll pick one up from the comments again. So I'll read it. If TradFi adoption is one of the goals, how do you reconcile the need for KYC AML compliance with the ethos of a neutral utility token? Can RLS be both institutionally acceptable and crypto native?
So I think this topic of KYC AML is like a huge topic. Basically, the way it works is this: every jurisdiction have their own regulations and rules, right? So the regulations and rules of the US are different from Europe, are different from South American countries, Asia, and so on. And this is actually one of the reasons why we design Rails in this way that you have these permission chains, because the whole idea is, you can launch if you're a bank, financial institution, or a government, you can launch your own kind of network that complies with your local regulations fully. And then we can have a public chain, which is, let's say, the minimum common denominator of all these different jurisdictions, right? So that, is a place that is still safe and secure, but that doesn't need to comply with all the regulations of all the countries in terms of KYC and ML, because it's just impossible. Some of the regulations, they're not compatible with each other. And so what we are doing is we are making a scaffolding, so like a skeleton of AML KYC systems on chain for the public chain, so that each institution, each client can adopt certain rules as they wish, and that it's going to be compliant to their own situation. But then again, it's not. We don't envision anytime soon that any global KYC AML is going to replace the requirements of a bank. The bank, every financial institution, they have to do their own know their own client, right? They cannot, they have to do their own due diligence, their own processes, and be comfortable with the KYC that they have done, because it's in the end of the day, it's their responsibility. So all we can do is provide scaffolding to make sure that there's a common denominator on the public chain that everyone can use. But this doesn't mean that we are trying to replace the KYC or AML that banks already do. This is not going to happen anytime soon.
I just checked the stats, gentlemen, and I can see that Marcus's stream to his audience has got 82, and Alex, you're only bringing 37 to the stream. So I think we need to create a game for this for the next one. Maybe a prize for who brings most people.
Yeah, or we give the prize to the people that are listening.
It's a good shout. Yeah, whoever has most people coming on can allocate a prize to those people that followed.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's work out how we do that.
Because I'm wearing the Rails shirt,
Good branding. Okay, what do we got here? So, this is a big one. How is the team ensuring RLS maintains sustainable demand for the long term?
Oh, this is an easy one. I mean, this was built is the core of our tokenomics. So, okay, as a recap, RLS is a fixed supply of 10 billion tokens. Okay, we cannot mint more. We can burn, but we cannot mint more. And so the flywheel works in such a way that the RLS has to be purchased by the institutions to pay for transactions. So the more institutions that we have using the permission private chains or the public chain, and the more transactions that each one does, the more demand there is for RLS. Yeah, it makes sense, because they have to purchase RLS to pay the foundation for the usage. That's in the licensing agreement with the software that's being used. Okay, so there is gonna be demand. And by the way, people can, I think we can say this, right? So there's this portal called pou.rails.com. It's proof of usage.rails.com, pou.rails.com. If you go there, you can see live how much money is coming into Rails, the Rails Foundation, coming from these clients that are using the system, like I just mentioned, because these clients, they are like we've been explaining, every month they have a bill to pay, based on how many transactions they executed in the permission chains of Rails, and it's done all on chain. So if you go to this portal, you then can see, live how much money is going through the system and how much Rails is receiving, as fees for usage of the permission chain system. And so there is demand coming from the fact that every institution that uses Rails needs to purchase token. And like Marcos explained just a minute ago, these tokens that are received as payment by the foundation is not like they go to like a treasury and stay there. They are divided up into 3 equal pieces. One piece goes to a special wallet for the foundation to be used for fostering and stimulating the growth of the ecosystem. So it's grants and things like this. Another third goes to the validators. And then another third goes to people building things and like, for example, the private network operators and people that are really helping grow Rails. So there's like a nice flywheel where actual fiat money, real money, is coming into the system every month because these institutions are using the system. They have to pay the foundation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. I also wouldn't ignore the retail side of us maintaining sustainable demand. So we've got lots of plans over the next few months. We're going to be expanding when the token is live with additional exchanges to target more markets, to capture more demand, capture more volumes, as well as kind of an integrated campaign to ensure that we can continually bring more people to RLS and to the community. and continue to leverage the community that we've already built. We're seeing great results already with the loyalty program, but we intend to scale this and continue to use this after TGE as well, using incentives for post TGE things where we'll be incentivizing on-chain activities as well. So both sides of the retail and institutional side, we've got plans to sustain this demand in the long term.
Right. We forgot to mention validators. I mean, we didn't mention it. There's other things too, right? So validating, people like retail community, they can use their tokens and lock them to help validate the network. So there's many mechanisms like this. I was just talking about the demand coming from institutions because I think this is quite unique to Rails.
And I guess the natural question following on from that would be, can we talk about RLS staking?
You can. So
Vaguely.
Okay. So there are validators because the chain is kind of proof of authority, let's say, algorithm, consensus algorithm. So there are validators. The validators are, at least initially, they are permissioned. Okay. The reason we do this is because, again, we need to make sure that we are creating an environment where financial institutions feel safe and are happy to use the system. If financial institutions are not happy to use the system, the public chain, then they're not going to use it, and that is bad for everyone, right? So this is part of the requirements that we learn from financial institutions, things that they need, that challenges that they have. So in the beginning, at least, all the validators are going to be permissioned. But the way that people can contribute is that even though the validators are permissioned, you can stake you as a user, any user can stake your Rails tokens, and then you can delegate them to one of the existing validators. Okay, and then you're gonna get yield. So basically, this is a mechanism that is already used across the board with many blockchains. We're not reinventing the wheel here. It's just that we think it's important that people can kind of lock their tokens and get yield because they're helping secure the entire network.
Sorry, I was muted there. Okay, and another one. If every bank adopts Rails as their core finance tech, how will governments and regulators react?
This is one for Marcos, I guess.
Yeah, the thing is, when it comes to the private networks or the Rails privacy node, man, the governance or regulators cannot say anything. If the bank decides to implement the systems internally to be on chain, on their own, infrastructure, it doesn't matter. To be frank, I don't see there would be any impediment from a regulator to say, hey, you cannot install this on your systems and don't use it. I think this, I've never seen this before. It could be, but I think what obviously and still have not clarity, but I think this will be mandate. So if you tokenize a security, so let's say a bank issue a corporate bond, okay, this bond needs to be custody because today for people to hold a corporate bond, you need to have a qualified custodian license. So most likely you not be able to transfer this tokenized corporate bond to a MetaMask because MetaMask is not a qualified custodian, right? You as a using a non-custodial wallet won't be able to hold that asset. So we don't know what would be the requirements for the usage of like a more broad usage of public chains. But I think the way I see it in the future is that banks probably will back like lending pools in the market, will back DEXs, banks or either banks or regulated let's call DeFi protocols. Last year I was in a panel at the RWA Summit in Singapore with the CEO of a very nice regulated DEX exchange in Philippines. It was super cool because basically what happened, he got an exchange license in Philippines to offer stocks, etc. But on the back of that was a DEX, and it was one of the first ever regulated DEXs in the world. and then it was a kind of decentralized in a way, but at the same time regulated. So there is a kind of some changes on the existing Philippines, regulatory framework for that. But he was one of the first. I was super surprised because I never heard. Uh, we're gonna bring them to deploy on Rails, hopefully. But this is something that we will see more and more.
So, Tom, there's a great question I saw in the chat. Can we answer this question
Yeah, which
from
one is it?
MZ? So MZ is asking, all I hear is how institutions adopt Rails chain. How does this relate to users in general? And I think this is a very important question that we should answer. So what is the vision of Rails? The vision of Rails is this. Today, we have several blockchains. But if you look at the liquidity, like this means how much money is actually circulating and locked and stuff like this, and you compare all the blockchains with all traditional finance, the blockchains are tiny. It's like small. It's about maybe billions of dollars, whereas financial institutions, they are holding like trillions, hundreds, 200, 500 trillions of dollars. So most of the money is not in blockchain, is in traditional finance, and the same applies to users. Okay, blockchain has probably it's difficult to estimate, but let's say 200 million users or something like this. Banks have 6 billion clients. So what happens is, and this is the thing that we're trying to do with Rails, is to combine these two things. And why is it good for users if we do this? Because imagine if we can bring all these regulated assets that are paying yield that exist today in traditional finance, right? So what Marcos was saying before, these receivables, credit card receivables, commercial receivables, these are things that once you tokenize, they are paying 20%, 25% per year. And they're safe, as in they are coming from a regulated financial institution. There are very professional people behind it. They've been doing this for many, many, many years. And so the plan here for Rails and how this affects people in general is that we want to have a marketplace where people from all over the world can buy these high yield paying assets and make 15, 20, 50, 25% per year in a regulated way, in a compliant way, in a safe way. Okay, and the challenge here is that you need enough liquidity, because if you only have one player doing this, it's too small. There's not enough assets for everyone. We want to bring the whole thing on chain. Okay, and so this is the vision of. I'm not saying we're going to do this year. I mean, this is the plan. This is the vision we have, and this is all the technology we're building, all the partnerships, all these banks we talk about. The reason we talk about banks, and financial institutions is because of this, because we want to bring these instruments on chain so that everyone can benefit. And by the way, I think one interesting thing that some people don't realize is. Developing countries, they have this thing where normally these assets, they pay more yield. Okay, so if you buy a receivable from a first world country, like what people call first world country, like US or Europe, maybe you get like, I don't know, 5%, 7% per year. But in developing countries, it's common for them to pay 20%, 25% per year. Okay, there are some, of course, challenges that we need to sort out, but just to explain to people why we are so excited about the possibilities here.
Yeah, and just going back to how you bring institutions to DeFi, we will announce soon, but we have built a very nice tool integrating Rails Enigma, our privacy preserving protocols, to the large DEX out there. We will announce together with them.
Yeah, probably the largest.
Yeah, it's the largest DEX. You recognize the name, but we will announce soon, and this will allow financial institutions to bring assets on chain with privacy on a DeFi protocol, and it's not a small one. And you will see, this is the kind of things that we're doing. Understanding, and there's a nice, there will be a nice, video showing the solution working, and that's the kind of things that we're doing.
Nice. And while we've got such good participation in the chat, I want to try something. I'm looking to make some more merch for some upcoming events, and I need some new taglines on the back of our t-shirts. So if anyone wants to suggest any new taglines, obviously not the blockchain for banks, something a bit more fun. If we choose yours, we'll send you a t-shirt, and then obviously we'll be wearing them at some events. I can see we've got lots of participation here, so maybe we can outsource some of our creative to you guys. Fingers crossed, because I could do with some more options.
So by the way, have you spoken about, next week we're going to be at the Korean Blockchain Week. There are like 2-3 events. Follow us on the social media, but then we're doing a side event. We're doing a very nice VIP dinner. We're going to share the links at Luna, and then the week after in Singapore will be super cool. Bear with us. There will be our party buzz around the city, and we're doing this yacht party, so we're super excited. The level of engagement is very high. If you are there in Seoul or in Singapore, join us. I think will be super fun. So it will be an opportunity to meet in person, to catch up, and yeah. So we're very excited about a lot of the events and momentum that we're getting.
Yeah, and I think that also speaks to the question from before about long-term demand for the RLS token, the fact that we're going out there to really expand and go deep in markets that we don't necessarily have strength in otherwise. And so we're going to have lots of meetings there with the exchanges, KOLs, press, to make sure that we have max impact when we're there, and also in the run-up to TGE, which we might talk about later. Okay, we've got loads of questions in here, so I'm going to jump back to some of the pre-selected ones that people tweeted on our message from yesterday or the day before, as they submitted them earlier. I want to prioritize these ones. So this one is from Jicky Meow. Will RLS be usable to underwrite on-chain bank loans, or mainly for governance staking?
Do you want to go for this
Yeah,
one?
I think, again, nobody knows about the future, but would be difficult to use RLS with the existing regulations to underwrite bank loans. But if this gains value over time, who knows? I would say that any asset that has an intrinsic value and utility could be used to underwrite bank loans. But for now, I don't think this is possible. But it will be. We hope. One of the things that could happen is, imagine that you could allocate your RLS token into a yield-bearing vault, and then capture part of this. Technically, we would think if it's possible, but I would love that people could, lend your RLS token, and that get somehow convert to a stable coin and get into the hands of the borrower. That's an idea that would bring even more utility to the RLS token. And again, no one is, I think, it's thinking or doing this thing. We'll see. I think again, it's a mix of lending pool with an asset and converting to stablecoin and giving to the borrower. We'll see. We don't know.
I think a lot of these questions, like, we get excited many times with ideas and stuff. I think we're being careful not to say no to any idea, because you never know, right? The regulations, they keep changing. The market changes. There's new technologies coming out. So I think what's important is that we keep it flexible. We have the tools, we have the skills, we have the connections, and we will adapt, as required, to make sure that we're making the best of everything that we got. So if in the future it's possible to do A, B, or C, of course we will be looking into it for sure.
Okay, great. And RLS's cross-chain collateral could unlock fresh DeFi rails. So could RLS as a cross-chain collateral unlock fresh DeFi rails?
RLS as cross-chain collateral could unlock fresh DeFi rails. So I think the way to think about RLS is kind of like any other native token from another chain, right? Like, for example, Ether from Ethereum. Whatever you can use Ether for ETH, you can use Rails the same way. So Of course, we because we have the governance of the token, so we can think about new uses that are not being done with other tokens, but the technology is basically the same, right? So it's a native token of a chain. You can lock it, you can unlock it. You could possibly use it as collateral in a DeFi protocol. You can transfer it, and so on. So again, I guess goes back to the previous question: is if this is a type of usage that makes sense, we will look into it for sure.
Okay, nice. And the next one from Rex Nico: how will RLS governance scale onboarding and treasury safeguards?
How is RLS governance scale onboarding and treasury safeguards? I mean, again, the governance model that we have at the moment is there's something called the Rails Foundation. Okay, the Rails Foundation has a board of directors, which is they are responsible for making sure everything is smooth and that the wallets are safe and that the funds are spent in the most appropriate way to foster the community. The goal of the foundation is to grow the community and increase the value for everyone of what we're building. And so right now, this is the governance model. And like I said before, in the future, it's going to be a DAO. And of course, when there's a DAO, then you have to think, okay, who has the private keys for the treasury? So there's things like this, that we need to worry about. But at the moment, it's like a typical. I mean, I don't want to give too many details of how exactly treasury is kept because one of the things about security is obscurity. Okay, I don't want to give like details of how exactly is that to keep things safe here, but we follow best practices. When I say we, I'm talking about Rails overall, and it's everything's cybersecurity is taken very seriously, and yeah.
And by the way, just to complement myself and Alex, we don't have access to
Oh yeah.
the foundation holdings. We have three independent directors. One of them, which is kind of the lead, used to be the director of a large protocol foundation, a large one, and he joined us. Very serious guy. Just to make it clear. Out of the 50% of the token supplies is with the foundation. Part of it will be released on the TGE. We're calibrating the number, probably between 5 to 10%. Part is going to be on the private sale now. And, our view is that, and by the way, part is unlocked around, 10%, and the rest is locked for 36 months that will be vested on a monthly basis. So you cannot touch it. This is already there, and it was part of the governance already installed. The grants program has been created. We're going to announce soon how people could leverage the grants program. But it's kind of we are following the best standards, especially because our investors, like Framework Ventures, Parify, RLS, they've invested in multiple protocols back in the day, and as part of their investment on us, we kind of signed an agreement which would make us follow the best practices from the foundation constitution to the independent directors to make sure that everything's done properly, because again, as there are investors, they don't want any reputational risk, and neither us. We want to do this as transparent as we can, obviously preserving security, etc. But the goal is that it's a real and serious business. So and again, with serious investors that backed us. That's why we're trying to follow the best practices. And again, even ourselves, we don't have control, which is good.
Yeah. I think this is a very important point I want to reiterate. Marcos and I are not directors of the Rails Foundation. Okay, we're not, and so we don't have control. We are employees of Parfin, which is the company that has been hired to build Rails. So we are here talking about it because we are deeply involved with all aspects of it, but the decisions are independently done by the Rails Foundation.
Yeah. And the tokens that we received as part of this ourselves, we're locked for 4 years ahead, guys. So we're here for the long term, And the unlocking is very, it's like the first year after TG only unlocks 10% of our tokens. So then the second year is 25, 30, 35.
After a full year, just to be
Yeah.
for the first year, there's nothing, and then once a full year has passed, then it unlocks 10%. So, and the reason, like, we wanted to make sure we did it this way. And by the way, this is for everyone. It's not just me and Marcus. It's everyone, investors, employees, everyone. Is because we really think the right way to build this is thinking about the long term. Okay, we are not. I mean, we've been building this for more than 3 years now. The clients we've got, if you look at the names, they are serious people. It's massive institutions. They wouldn't bet in like a project that could disappear tomorrow. So we have to make sure that we are here for the long term.
Yeah, and I think this is important. Nuclea, which was this large financial market infrastructure in Brazil, they process over $4 trillion in payments. They have one private network in production. That's one of that's paying the fees. If you look at the proof of usage, they're already paying the fees. We're already buying back Rails token. This is working already. It's a super large financial market infrastructure. So it's not like just a small player. And they look the risks of the usage of technology. They're running a network. It's tokenizing assets already there. So we reached like around $100 million of tokenized assets, and it's growing. So I think in the long run, this private network will be massive, and they are also will be a validator of our network, of our public chain. So we're super excited about it. There are more news to come. We've been partnered. We're very close to them. So I think in the long run, we'll collect a lot of value from this, and hopefully this will accrue on the token value as well.
Thank you. That was a great question and a very comprehensive answer, gentlemen. I think next question is a record, the longest question we've ever had. So strap yourselves in.
Okay.
How does the RLS token in the Rails blockchain ecosystem enable network operations and governance for protocol upgrades and compliance while addressing centralization risks from institutional involvement and scalability issues in high volume tokenized asset and CBDC transactions? Rather you guys than me on this one.
I think we need a new AMA to answer the question.
Correct.
So, okay, I'll give the first part of the answer. Marcus can give the second part. So, I think as a reminder to everyone, the two major focuses we have, for Rails are, number one, bringing yield-bearing assets on chain, so that investors around the world can buy this and benefit from it, like we were explaining before, and CBDCs. And CBDCs, we've been working with central banks around the world. Not all central banks and not all the countries are doing CBDC projects, but those are fundamentally different things, right? So CBDCs, they are kind of private networks, very permissioned. And the reason they like Rails is because you can build your own permissioned network with the Rails technology, and in such a way that you have full governance control. So, for example, central bank can define who joins, who doesn't join, what are the rules, which kind of things can be done with the CBDC, what kind of smart contracts are allowed, many things. And they can do that while also preserving privacy for all the different participants. But they also have an auditor role that, so that like a regulator can peek into the transactions and make sure everything is correct. So this is on the CBDC side. The way that the Rails token integrates with that is, like I said before, that the usage of this system, the permission system, it is charged by the volume of transactions, and the Rails token is used as the payment currency for that. Okay. Apart from that, there is not much integration. Like the permission chains, they are free to choose their own rules and so on. and the permission chains, they can also voluntarily integrate onto the public chain, so they can connect with a bridge, so that then they can then kind of bridge tokens and transfer between different private networks. And since we are getting too much into the kind of details now, maybe we do another AMA for this. And the other side, which is the public chain, RLS, is what we've explained before, right? So it's not that RLS is this magical new token. It's just RLS is a native token for the whole system. It exists in different chains, like it exists in Rails, and it also exists in Ethereum, for example, as an ERC20 token. And whatever is that you see that can be done with other tokens in other chains, EVM chains, then you should assume that it's the same things can be done in Rails. Okay, so I don't know if Marcus, you have a better answer. I don't know if I touched all the points there.
Yeah, I think it's right. You spot right on, and yeah, the thing is, we and then there was a question why Rails is different. I think we're doing a lot of different things here. First, most of the protocols, they try to create this getting existing crypto users from each other and the DeFi protocol. We're connecting directly with the financial institutions, investment platforms, fintechs to bring their user base on chain. And again, this is a different angle. It's a kind of bottom up instead of top down. And that will merge both together. So we bring crypto users to leverage the liquidity that's coming from these existing financial institutions, and that's the beauty of what we're building. And in order to comply, make sure that the DeFi ecosystems comply with the requirements from financial institutions, we're creating this on-chain KYC, on-chain suitability, privacy preserving protocol. I mentioned we're gonna announce soon privacy integration with the Rails Enigma with the large DEX protocol, and this will make these users from financial institutions to come on chain, to come to DeFi, and that will bring more liquidity for the crypto users to interact with this pools, and that's the angle that we're taking, and again, it's super exciting because we haven't seen any other protocol approaching this, and yeah, it's and again, some of our background, I used to work in banks many years, 25 plus years. We have good relationships. We speak their language, and this makes things easier, but we managed to understand the requirements, their problems, what we're trying to solve. We're not just building a product out of nothing. There's a deep research on what are the problems, what are the requirements, what needs to be done for this mass adoption. So when we say we're going to bring $100 trillion on chain, it's not because we're just, it's just blah, blah, blah. No, because we're building a product that potentially could bring this a bit to $100 trillion on chain. That's it,
Yeah.
And I think that's the angle we're trying to do,
And just like on that, I love this question. Why is Rails? What is Rails doing different, right? I think that's the
It's
question.
perfect. It's like a marketing person has put this one in the chat, right?
And so so that's the answer that Marcus gave, and I also wanted to touch on on a few more kind of on the requirement side. Marcus said, "Oh, because we understand the requirements." So what are these requirements then, right? And so there are many requirements, but I think let's say the four biggest ones are that financial institutions, they want the system to be fully EVM compatible. We heard this over and over and over again from banks all over the world, from central banks. Why? Because Ethereum just positioned itself as the kind of institutional technology, right? And Ethereum has the most developers, it has the biggest ecosystem. Most of the innovation came from Ethereum. It's been there for longer, battle tested. So there's many reasons why. Okay, there's tooling around, there's options. So institutions want full EVM compatibility. Okay, that's number one. Number two, institutions need privacy, but the privacy needs to be in such a way that it needs to be compliant. So it can't be privacy that like a criminal can just send funds to another criminal. That's not what I mean. What I mean is compliant privacy. Privacy as in, I'm a bank. I don't want my competitor bank to see everything that I'm doing. Okay, and plus I need to protect the privacy of my own clients. I cannot divulge, how much money, this guy has or that guy has. It needs to be kept private. So we developed this privacy technology using something called zero knowledge and snarks, and this has been published and this has been used in central bank projects. It's called Enigma, and you can go to the website and there's some information there. Then the next thing is scalability. So what it means is, the systems, banks have millions, hundreds of millions of clients. This one bank that Marcos, mentioned that we closed this deal this week, they have 150 million clients. I just said before that Ethereum maybe has 150 million users across the world. So this is to give you an idea of the scale of things. And so when we sell blockchain to a bank, it needs to be able to accept the number of transactions, the number of clients, and all of these things. This is very difficult to do. And Rails can does this because of the architecture that we chose. And then compliance. Okay, this is a non-starter. Banks need to be compliant. If the bank is not compliant, the CEO goes to jail. No one wants to go to jail. So you need to make sure that the system can be compliant. That's why we have this permission system and that connects natively with the public chain and all of these things. So all of this together makes Rails quite unique. I do not know any other project today that exists in blockchain that fills all of this or check all of these boxes. And that's one more box that I didn't mention, which is this. You can do this all technically. It's fine. You can take teams in any country. You can build this. I mean, it's not easy. Okay, we've been doing it for like 3 years, but it's possible. But there's another element, which is you need access to the clients, because banks are very. It's a different world. If you didn't come from banking, you're gonna have a very hard time selling to a bank. Very, very hard time, because they speak a different language. They use different terms. It's just a different way of thinking. So if you put all of these things together, I do not know any other project today that has all of these things and that proven actually, because we're already generating revenue. I mean, you can go to the portal and mention pou.rails.com, you see there's money coming in already.
Thank you for that. So we've all got a hard stop, so need to be a bit strategic about these questions. So all of the good questions that we've collected, I'll create an FAQ for the token and put that on the page, because I think that'd be super useful for everybody. So thank you for sharing, even if we couldn't answer it today. There's one obvious one, which maybe we should ask now, which is when TGE?
Ooh. I mean, Marcos, you want to go?
Well, I think TGE is a consequence of all of you guys to be part of it and for us to be ready. We're getting ready. We have engaged market makers. We have started the listing process with the exchange. We've been approved in some large exchanges already. So there will be a momentum between second, third week of October to beginning of November. That's where we're planning. We're not sure exactly the date because there's some other elements. But I think the push next week in South Korea and then the week after in Token 2049 in Singapore will help us a lot on that. And there's some like very large announcements that we're gonna make in parallel. We have this very high also company which is doing a strategic investment on us. So they're like very good announcements. So everything's converging for us to do the TGE between the middle and end of October. Might slip a little bit to early November, but TGE you do once in a lifetime. So we're not in a rush. We want to be ready and we want to make this in the right way. So that's what the message I want to convey. We're not doing TGE for doing TGE. We're doing TGE because it will be the right time and we're prepared. And I think this is where we're working on this for the last 2 years. So the momentum of TGE is one of the most important. Working on the Rails for the last 2.5, 3 years. And that's why it's important moment. And again, different from others, we are doing TGE, we're already generating revenue without the public chain launched, and that's why we're different, I would say, from others as well. There was revenue being generated already, and we hope that to increase a lot in the coming months. And yeah, well, we're very happy. I'm super excited. I'm thinking I have a long, guys. I will take like 2 flights. It would take me like almost 48 hours to get to South Korea. But I'm super excited. I'll take the plane later today. Stopping over in Europe, and then from Europe there. Super excited. See you there. For those that will be there, let's meet. Let's catch up. Join our events. It will be super fun. Super fun.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we're almost ready for TGE, but we need to make sure that the market is also ready. So that's why things can change. Okay, so I think we're going to draw it to close here. But to thank everybody of the 3,000 plus that have tuned in today, I wanted to make sure you get some extra alpha. We are going to be announcing our private sale later today. Everyone within the community gets an opportunity to join the allow list. So you'll be in the VIP public sale, private sale on Republic. And we'll be sending updates on this later. So please follow us on socials. We'll be sending something out later, and you'll have the weekend to join the allow list, and you'll get an early opportunity to engage in the private sale before anybody else, because we really appreciate your support so far. And we all need to jump off, but thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.